Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. All right, we are live and ready, and welcome to Safe for Trapped to the Survival Pool Show. I'm your host, Shawn Stewart, on this October 23rd, 2025. Glad to have you on this wonderful show, by the way. So, we have a guest, by the way. We have a special guest. It's been a while since we had a special guest. So, my guest for this episode is Jason Anik of the Last Man Standing podcast. As him and I were going to do a preview of week 8 of the NFL Survival Pool. And then after that, I'm going to give you the NFL player survivor pick on my 5 NFL picks on who more likely will score a touchdown. And then after that, we're going to do week 9 of the NCAA football survival pool. As wow, this time flying by the way. So we only got 5 more weeks of college football. And by the way, if you are watching this on YouTube or X, make sure you hit that like button and also hit the subscribe button. That would be greatly appreciated. And you can also listen to Safe or Trap Survival Pool Show on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts as well. So it'll be greatly appreciated if you subscribe. So just in case if you missed live broadcast. So before I have my guest on, I want to make a couple of announcements. So I actually did a video on Splash Sports. They have a contest called NBA Point Survivor, which I did it on Tuesday because it was the NBA opener night. So all you have to do is pick a player that's going to score 20 points or more. That's it. So if they do that, you advance to the next round. If not, you're eliminated. I did that on Tuesday, so I'll be doing those on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, along with the NHL Point Survivor contest. Also, Bull Rush is doing a NFL Satellite Survivor contest. So here's how it works. So each week, every player starts with a fantasy $100,000 bankroll. So you place your picks on NFL matchup using real odds. The goal is to finish the week with a higher return than at least 20% of the field. Top 80% of performers move on to the next round. Then the bankroll resets each week, so one bad bet will not hurt you. So the last player standing in week 20 will split the 100K as well. So use promo code BULLRUSH when you enter the link if you are watching it on YouTube as well. So click the link as in the description box below. Use my promo code 586sports, or you can do this: sign up. And as soon as you sign up, you'll see it says join NFL's Survivor Contest or NFL Survivor. And then as soon as you click that, make sure it says add credits, and then use that promo code 586sports. So if you put in that promo code 586sports, so that'll be like $5 off. So if it was 20, and along with that promo code, it will be $5. So it'll be 15 credits. And you can also use deposit. So you can do that with debit, crypto, or PayPal. So those are the 3 types that you can use to deposit your funds as well. So just want to get that out the way. So now that I made the announcement, so as we are in week 8 of the NFL Survival Pool, of course, we have Thursday night football between the Minnesota Vikings and the Los Angeles Chargers. So I'm going to bring him in right now. So, ladies and gentlemen, he is the host of The Last Man Standing. Please welcome Mr. Jason Anik to the podcast. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'll let it breathe. I'll let that round of applause breathe. I got no problem doing that.
Hold on a second. I think I had it on speakers. Okay, I got it on the wrong speaker. All right. I put it on the wrong speaker. All right, can you hear me?
I hear you good.
Okay,
you got me?
There we go.
Good
yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I put it on the wrong speaker.
No, you're good. I appreciate the applause or the fake applause, whatever it was, but great to be with you. My wife, her maiden name is Stewart, so you can be sure I knew I was in good hands. You know, it's interesting hearing you talk about that NBA, pick a player with 20 points or more, right? I had a parlay last night with Jalen Brunson over 25.5 points. Every other leg came through. I think he finished with 23 points. So dump that, but excited to be with you. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you. And then on Tuesday, I was like, when I did my picks for the NBA Player Survivor on Splash Sports, I was 5 out of 6.
Okay.
Which is not bad.
I hear you.
of 6.
Yeah, a lot of points being scored in the NBA. I think some of those totals may get tweaked here and there, but we'll see how it plays out. But I'm fully focused on football. Obviously, at this stage, the NBA with 82 games, lot to be determined. Many months to fall off the calendar before those games are consequential.
Gotcha. Okay, so we're starting off with tonight's game. That is the LA Chargers and the Minnesota Vikings. Now, for those that knows about me, I am not a favor of picking Thursday night football games because even though a team may be better than certain teams, that other team will end up winning. For example, the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers in the case because everybody thought Pittsburgh was going to win it. And not only that, they thought Pittsburgh was going to sweep the division for since 2008, the year they won that Super Bowl, just in case the people don't remember. But right now, the Chargers is favored by 3 because both teams lost, because the Vikings lost to the Eagles and the Chargers lost to the Colts. I got to give credit to the Colts because the Colts, I never thought the Colts would ever whoop the Chargers like that at LA. But when I look at this, I say, I would love to pick the Chargers, but the only bad part is not only is it 3, but it's a Thursday night football game. So I expect to be like a high scoring game, and there's going to be a couple of people that scoring touchdowns. And I looked it up before I did the research. Justin Jefferson's only have 1 touchdown this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, look who's throwing him the football, right? JJ McCarthy banged up and not ready. And now you got Carson Wentz. I mean, you can be sure I'm on Carson Wentz over half an interception tonight, minus 135. From a survivor standpoint, I lean on the Chargers. Nothing here for me from a survivor standpoint. I will say the Chargers offensive line that has been decimated, getting a couple starters back. So maybe I peak at that side. But for me, I'm a National Football League junkie. So when Thursday comes around, I'm like you. I kind of like laying off a little bit Thursday night. I'm not jumping to go crazy Thursday night. I'm just glad there's football to watch after not having anything Tuesday, Wednesday.
Exactly. Because in my history of playing survivor pools, I have never picked a team on Thursday night football.
Wow.
Ever.
Wow. There's so many survivor pools out there. Circa Survivor obviously is the one that our Last Men Standing podcast is based around. Are you, if you don't mind me asking, are you in any particulars? Are you in a bunch of these contests, Splash or whatever? Tell me what you got.
I am NFL, NCAA, and I also do March Madness. I do March Madness because last year this past season, it was the first time I ever played NCAA March Madness Survivor Pool.
I love it.
Exactly. And it makes you help you to think. That's what I like about Survivor Pool. Along with a grid sheet.
Yeah, right?
Now, there's another game. There's another team I've been paying attention to. I was like, oh, good. Thank God it's going to be week 8. Is that the Atlanta Falcons is going to play the Miami Dolphins. Now, when you look at the Dolphins, they have struggled on offense without Tyreek Hill, and Tua leads the league in interceptions with 10 through 7 starts. And the Dolphins defense have allowed 20 plus points every game this season, and they have the league's worst run defense, while Atlanta have Bijan Robinson and Tyler Aguilar. They're like a terrific duo. Now, the thing about Atlanta is this. When they play home for a certain team, you're like, you know what? I'm confident in them playing and winning. But then when they're enrolled in certain games, you'll be like, do I want to pick the Atlanta? Or it's like, no. For example, like last week, I didn't expect the Atlanta Falcons to beat the Buffalo Bills on Monday night. I mean, personally, I would not touch that. But when I look at this Atlanta Falcons team, because I would have never expected 3 teams in the South to be competing, the Buccaneers, the Panthers, and the Falcons. But the worst case scenario is this. If you don't pick the Atlanta Falcons right now, the only worst case scenario is the last week of the regular season. That's the worst case scenario, which you don't want. And I'm like, you know what? I might as well pick the Atlanta Falcons just to get the heck out of it. Just like I did last week against the Bears playing the Saints.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm looking hard at Atlanta this week. This was the game I sort of had penciled in for them. You know, I was asked by one of my friends at the beginning of this season, how much are you just looking to fade bad teams in these survivor contests? And that's a question I ask myself a lot. So for me, the Miami Dolphins really are a fadeable team right now. I do not think they're playing for one another right now. A lot of dissension in the locker room. You know, Atlanta, there are some spots. They have New Orleans twice. You alluded to week 18, New Orleans at home. They also host Carolina. In week 11. I don't know. I like what you said about the home road. I can envision Bijan Robinson having a big day. I'm going to peek at Atlanta hard here. You know, I lost one of my entries on Atlanta week 3. I'm embarrassed to tell you, at Carolina, when the Panthers
30-0.
30-0. I've deemed this zero dark 30.
Gosh.
It was a dark Sunday for that particular entry. So I'm not necessarily running to the window to play Atlanta this week, but I shouldn't. But that's because of that bias from what happened there. So I like Atlanta quite a bit here in Survivor. And I like to think about, you know, when we wake up Monday morning, or the Dolphins will have gone to Atlanta and won that football game. I think it's a good bounce back spot, obviously, after that loss at San Francisco. And the quarterback Penix, I think he was back at practice. So while I don't love him as a player, I do like the continuity there.
And then there was another game I also picked. I'll be the first one to say this. I thought the LA Chargers was going to beat the New York Giants. And I got to tell you, I was not too happy about that.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the Giants, you know, I will say last week, even though the Broncos emerged victorious with 33 points in the fourth quarter, that was a spot where I had penciled in all of my maps. I was playing the Broncos until I saw what Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo did Thursday night against the Super Bowl champions. And then most certainly so that Giants team, I don't expect a lot. I think it's going to be difficult for them to get it going again against Philly this weekend. But if I'm a Giants fan, I'm as excited as I've been in a decade.
Goodness gracious. But I will say this about the Atlanta Falcons. Like, if you're in a big survivor pool, it would make sense to do that, because there's a difference between in a bigger survivor pool and a smaller survivor pool. Because like in a bigger survivor pool, you wanna get rid of the smaller the okay teams first, and then get the elite teams later on the regular season. So that's how I do my format.
I agree with you. You know, I'm looking at it through a Circa Survivor lens, which is the holiday implication. So for your viewers that are watching, that means Thanksgiving and Christmas are their own days in these contests. So you got to have some teams available. But on the other side of the coin, you got to get there. You got to get to Thanksgiving to have a conversation about who you have available.
Exactly. Now, there's another game I've been looking at, but I'm seeing a lot of people favoring Baltimore, so I know there's going to be a lot of suckers going to pick that team, but I would not pick that. So we still don't know if Lamar Jackson is going to play or not, because, you know, last week the Chicago Bears beat the New Orleans Saints. But when I look at this team, I'm like this is a must-win for Baltimore, because if Baltimore doesn't win this game against the Bears, then the season's probably more likely over, and then we don't know what's going to happen with Jar Harbaugh after this season. So it's kind of like a do or die for the Baltimore Ravens.
So much unknown about Lamar Jackson as we sit here on a Thursday night still. So I think we'll know more, see what happens in practice tomorrow. Maybe we'll have more information at that time. Even if Lamar plays, this team is 1-5. You're facing a Bears team led by Ben Johnson. It's won 4 straight football games. You know, Ravens -6.5 on the board, or 6 right now, or 5.5. If Lamar Jackson doesn't play, I like the Bears a lot. Might even take a peek at them in Survivor, because I think if Lamar Jackson doesn't walk through that door, I think the Ravens season, you know, may sort of be ending this Sunday, as you alluded to.
Exactly. Especially in the NFC North. My goodness gracious. Then I'm looking at Dallas and Denver. I would not even touch that game. And then I noticed we was talking about the New York Giants. Now, what I noticed about that game last week, I'm like, wait a sec. How is Denver not scoring in the first 3 quarters? That would really kind of threw me off. And then the fourth quarter, the Broncos come back and won that game. But I will say this about Denver. I like Denver's defense, but offensively, they have the weapons, but they're kind of inconsistent. That's what I'm looking at. And then you look at Dallas, offense, not bad. Defense, no. And then it's a possible trade.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard a lot of good information and good arguments for both sides of that game. Not a game I would even consider in any Survivor contest.
Exactly. Then there's another one. There's another one of the Cincinnati Bengals playing against the New York Jets.
Yep.
Now that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. That is a very tricky one because the Jets are the only team that has not won a game. And then you have the Cincinnati Bengals. They got Joe Flacco. And the only question is when will Joe Burrow will come back? That's the only thing I have a problem with that. But it's just to me, it's like I don't want to take the Cincinnati Bengals right now because they probably will have like a couple of future values, but it's like I could save the Bengals for a future pick and then worry about the whoever have on your pick. Or like for example, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints. Now, Buccaneers, they're banged up, but I still believe the Buccaneers will win that game because the Saints defense is just not that good.
I agree with that. I mean, I think Baker needs to play. I would stay off of that Tampa game in Survivor, I think. You know, in terms of the Bengals, though, I will say, when you bring up the Jets not having won a football game, it got me thinking, and I didn't intend to say this on your show, or, you know, it's like, how many games do we think the Jets are going to win this year, right? 2, 3, not like if you're telling me right now, Jets wins over under 2.5, I may go under, right? Maybe it's like a 2-15 football team. So for me, can almost be a rinse and repeat thing. I faded the Jets last week on Carolina and got through with only 30 other entries in the Circa Survivor contest. So I'm going to give the Bengals a hard look, you know, and in terms of saving the Bengals for later in the season, I don't think Joe Burrow is coming back unless all the stars are aligned, meaning they have a really good chance to be in contention, but also that they can bring him back gingerly and bring him back a week too late. I mean, you know, I'm a Patriots fan. Christian Gonzalez was ready to play earlier in the season, and Mike Vrabel deliberately said, I'm glad you're ready. 1 extra week. And so for me with Burrow, whether it's Christmas Day, I just don't think he's going to be ready. And I don't necessarily believe Joe Flacco can take this thing, you know, to the moon on a consistent basis every week. Maybe he can take them to the postseason. Certainly has a lot of weapons and feeding Chase and Higgins. But so for me, if you like the Bengals, while there may appear to be future value on the schedule, how much sort of do you want to put in Flacco? I feel like the other shoe may fall with Flacco at some point, you know?
And then I also did a research on the Jets. The Jets, I'm surprisingly, the Jets got a top 10 in pass defense. Surprisingly.
Well, I mean, I think in their last couple games, they've only given up 13 points in their last couple games, both losses. Yeah, I mean, they're playing tough. I think they're playing good at special teams defense. I think it's going to be interesting to see what Tyrod Taylor can bring. I think it's going to maybe balance that offense a little bit. That gives me a little pause. If it was Justin Fields, I would like the Bengals more.
Exactly. And then I also noticed with the New England Patriots, they're on a winning streak. Now, in my situation, I'm like, you know what? The weather was more likely to be, I heard they're more likely to be rain on Sunday from what I've heard. And then I'm looking like, you know what? New England got a couple of future picks that I can save. So right now, this not be the right time to use the New England Patriots.
I agree with you. And I'm a Patriots fan. What I will say, just to play devil's advocate a little bit, is I love the Patriots to find a way to win this game by at least 1 point, right? If we're talking Survivor, right? I do believe, as much as I think the Denver defensive line could give problems to that sort of young, inexperienced Patriots offensive line and even the inexperienced quarterback Drake May, who's been lights out, but I like the Patriots very much to win the game. Just like I like Philly to win this game against the Giants. I don't love either team in Survivor this week, though, to your point.
And then just the same thing, I like the Indianapolis Colts to beat the Tennessee Titans because as the weeks will go further, it'll be tough for you to pick Indianapolis as the weeks go further and further and further.
Totally agree with that. If you have the Colts available, this is the week to play them. It's really hard. This almost appears to be the best team in football versus the worst team in football. So if you're getting an opportunity for a 2-touchdown favorite, I think so much magic has to go right for Tennessee to win this football game. And Tennessee, I think, maybe used all their magic in that win against Arizona week 5.
I'm like, you know what? I did use Arizona in one of my survival pool picks. I'm trying to see what game that I used them, but I did use Cincinnati in one of my pools when they was playing Cleveland because I was kind of like iffy at first.
Well, if I remember correctly, I think how we got in touch with you is you said you didn't like Denver week 1 in Survivor. I think you commented, you said, I'm not going to play Denver week 1, and they were home to Tennessee. And so I was on Cincinnati in one of my pools at Cleveland. We got lucky there. That was
Exactly. Yeah, I remember I did say that. I was like, no, man. Because what happened was I was looking at how many people was picking the Denver Broncos. I was like, oh no, I can't do that. Because I was looking at how many people were gonna pick the Broncos. So like if a team is favorite, I'd be like, no, I'm good. I could look somewhere else.
Well, Tennessee looked, that was maybe the best they looked all season. They played some good defense.
Now, is there any other games are you looking in Survivor as in week 8?
You know, a lot depends on who you have available to you, and a lot depends on the type of survivor pool that you're in. If you're in one of these circa type pools where you have holiday implications, then maybe you keep Philadelphia. But what I'll tell you, the idea that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to lose the year after winning the Super Bowl, are going to lose to the New York Giants 2 out of 3 weeks, I just don't see it at home in Philadelphia.
It's
And
impossible.
I feel like last week, Philadelphia getting that win in that fashion, AJ Brown, couple touchdowns, Devontae Smith gets going, 9 catches, 183 yards. I think that type of win for a locker room that kind of needed it. I just don't think they lose the Giants in this spot here. And I think the Giants, I don't think they get up off the mat. So for me, I think it's from a survivor standpoint, I think there are a lot of favorites. I believe the favorites last week were 12-3 straight up. I don't have that in front of me, but I think a lot of chalk emerges victorious. I think a lot of 6-7 point favorites this week cross the finish line.
Exactly. I'm glad they're going to show that game in my area. I'm so glad. But I don't see the Philadelphia Eagles losing to the Giants again. I don't see the Giants sweeping the Eagles.
I agree.
Because I would have never thought that that game was going to be a blowout, to be honest with you.
I agree with you. And Philly's tough. I mean, they can be stagnant on offense. They don't always explode in the passing game. But I think if they're doing anything in the passing game, it opens up everything for number 26.
And then there's another team I'm also forgot about mentioning is the Minnesota Vikings. Oh my God. I mean, if they had JJ McCarthy still, there would be a couple of games that I would pick. But right now, it's just since you got Carson Wentz, it's just like I don't know what games they're favored by.
Oh, I wouldn't touch Carson Wentz in any survivor pool.
Exactly.
You know, and JJ McCarthy, I'm with you, but like, yeah, I'm drinking the JJ McCarthy Kool-Aid, but he hasn't shown me anything. So when he comes back, I'm gonna need to see a good bit, even though I like, one game. You know what I mean? So I like what I think he can do, especially with that head football coach. But I don't know, man. I think that Minnesota team with Carson Wentz at the helm, that is a fade. If anything, I'm looking to bet against that team.
Exactly. Or just like I want to go back to last week, I never thought, I swear, when I was looking at my splash sports, I would never thought Cleveland would blow out Miami. I was disgusted. I was like, oh my
Well, that didn't surprise me at all, if I'm being honest with you. If I had, unfortunately, I only have one entry left in Survivor, but if I had multiple, I would have strongly considered Cleveland there. And in the same way, for those of you that are looking at the Falcons this week, that Miami Dolphins team, it's just hard for me to envision them winning a football game this Sunday on the road against a team that I think is better, that has a fast defense. Tyreek Hill not walking through that door. So that didn't surprise me to see Cleveland handle Miami in Cleveland.
Oh, that was a nice statement you said. That was a Rick Pitino moment when you for the Boston Celtics. I was like 24 years ago, I think was that happened. 24 years ago that happened.
Unbelievable. And it's so funny, your reference there about walking through that door. That is the reference. It is Rick Pitino. Larry Bird's not walking through that door. Paul Pierce not walking through that. Dude, that's great stuff. It's great stuff that you remember that. And that's where I got that reference. I use it all the time.
Exactly. Now, where can my listeners find you on social media, and what time do you air your show?
Appreciate you asking. Good man. You find me everywhere at Boston Anik. It's ANIK, Boston Anik. And our podcast, which is sort of blowing up in a good way, at Last Men Pod. Me and my guy Tony Farmer, we come every Wednesday night, 7 o'clock Eastern or 8 o'clock Eastern, sort of breaking everything down. Not different than we do here. Tony has a handful of entries. I got one left. So, and this is in the Circus Survivor, but I think I only wish I had more entries. I'm going to continue. I got the Survivor bug, you can be sure.
Exactly. But I will say this about Survivor. Once you play Survivor Pool, you can't get enough. You can't you're addicted to it regardless.
100%. I used to be so much more focused on against the spread and even teasing games and parlays. I'm so locked in on just money lines
And
and
people look at me crazy when I talk Survivor Pool. They look at me like, what the hell are you talking about?
tell you what, man, it's I'm trying to make a lot of money here in these contests.
Man, and I'm trying to help the grow Survivor Pool. I
I
mean,
love
fantasy football's still around, no question about that. But
Oh,
I do see it. I do see a
I'm
future
47
in
years
Survivor
old.
Pool.
I'm not a child. Fantasy football just doesn't do it for me.
Right. But I just feel like Survivor Pool just give you like a better like with your mindset.
I agree. I agree completely. And I said to my co-host Tony, I started with 4 entries in Circuit Survivor. I'm down to 1, and I almost like it. Obviously, I'd like to have more entries, but it's to just have to focus on 1 entry. It's very I'm able to compartmentalize the way my brain works. That works nicely for me,
All right. Thank you so very much. And I look forward to having you on a future show.
You're the man anytime.
I should
Great.
have you on last week for the last week.
I hear you. Well, we tried. Remember, I couldn't do last week. So we rain check tonight. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you very much. You have a nice night.
You
That
too.
was Jason Anik to the program. Okay, so I I did promise you guys that I do have the Week 8 NFL Player Touchdown Survivor Pick. So use my promo code UUM2IX and you will get $10 free when you enter a contest that is $10 or more. All right. So the link will be in the description box below. So here's my 5 players. All right. So the first one we're going to say is Kyle Pitts of the Atlanta Falcons, as he is going against a Dolphins team that gives up 64 yards per game to opposing tight ends. And Pitts has averaged over 6 targets per game, including a 16% red zone target share. And he has had a run route over 90% of snaps and will find the end zone against a vulnerable Dolphins defense. So that's number 1. Number 2, Dalton Kincaid of the Buffalo Bills. He has 3 touchdowns already this year, surpassing his career season high already. He also put forth an excellent 14.4 yards per reception, and he owns 5 red zone targets and 12 first read targets for a Bills team that lacks physicality in the red zone. And the Panthers defense gives up 65 yards per and 3 total touchdowns to tight ends this season. And the Panthers play zone on an NFL high of 81% of snaps. And that's where King said feats with a 75% catching rate. Third one we're going to look at is Quentin Johnson of the Minnesota Vikings as the, did I get the name right? I think wait, excuse me, let me correction. Quentin Johnson of the LA Chargers. The Vikings have allowed a league high of 14.2 yards per target to outside receivers with a 12.2 touchdown rate to those pass catches. That's like 31st. The Vikings have allowed a 58.3 completion rate to outside receivers on deep targets. That is 20 plus yards downfield. That is 31st in the league. Justin Jefferson as number 4, as he has 1 touchdown this season, as I just said earlier ago. Now he has had at least 10 targets in each of his last 3 games, and he's the only Vikings receiver running 90% of routes in the red zone. And he leads the Vikings in targets per route run and yards per route run versus zone coverage. The latter, which should play well against a Chargers team that has utilized a zone defense at top 7 rate this season. And last but not least, it is Keenan Allen, as he has 44 catches for 435 yards and 4 touchdowns in his first 7 games back with the Chargers, coming off a game against the Colts, catching 11 passes for 119 yards and a score. So those are my top 5 NFL players touchdown players you can use on Splash Sports. Because it's been a year now. This contest has been around since this year. So we got the NFL out the way. So now we're going to do college football. So there were a couple of upsets that happened in college football. So you had Louisville defeated number 2 Miami 24-21. And according to, let me get my sheet real quick. According to, okay, there it is. Splash Sports, I'm looking at my ACC. They actually gave Louisville a 85.50% chance of beating Louisville at that on Friday night. Then you also had Arizona defeated Texas Tech. That was a good one, 26-22. As I'm looking into Arizona had a 47.60% chance of beating. Wrong one. Arizona State, 31.70% chance of beating Texas Tech. Correction. Then you also had University of Alabama defeated Memphis 31-24, but they're in a different conference. And then Vanderbilt defeated 10th ranked LSU. That was 31-24. As I'm looking at it, I think we did say it was a trap game. So Vanderbilt had a 56.50%, as LSU had a 43.50. So we got, let me see. I know I got one wrong for the Miami game. And so we did say trap for the Arizona State Texas Tech. So I got one wrong. So not bad. Not bad. Okay. So we got that out the way. So there are a couple of things. So we're in week 9 of the NCAA Survivor Pool. Let me turn it up. All right, there we go. So we're in week 9 of the NCAA Survivor Pool. So there are a couple of games in the Big Ten, the SEC, and the Big 12. So let's start off with the Big Ten. So you have UCLA going to number 2nd ranked Indiana. Now, UCLA have beaten Penn State, and let's see, upset win over Penn State. Now, Indiana has a Heisman named Fernando Mazzola. Now, the Hoosiers have one of college football top-ranked offense with 3,481 yards of total offense so far, 7-0, and they were a 25.5-point favorite as the Hoosier Wrestlers against the spread. So I'm looking at the Hoosiers' schedule. So if you look at the Indiana Hoosiers on our 586 Sports Survival Pool grid sheet, so when you look at the Hoosiers, so the Hoosiers have UCLA, that's a home game. Then they got to go to Maryland in week 10. I think they should handle them. And then the next one they got to go to is at Penn State. That's in week 11. So they have 9, 10, 11. So if they beat those 3, then they should have no problem being undefeated and then going to the Big Ten championship. So if you're Oregon, you got to hope that Indiana lose that game. Then the other one you want to look at if you're playing Survivor Pool or if you have any of these teams on Splash Sports, let's look at Northwestern and Nebraska. Now, Northwestern defeated UCLA and Penn State. Of course, both of those coaches got fired. Now, the Wildcats have a ground-heavy approach, and they haven't actually beat a Big Ten team with a winning overall record. Now, both teams are 5-2. Now, Nebraska are almost in the same boat with wins over Maryland and Michigan State, combined 1-7 record in the Big Ten, fresh off a 24-6 loss at Minnesota. Dylan Rizzola did not have a good day because he was sacked 9 times by Minnesota, and his Cornhuskers ranked 131st in sacks allowed per game. So that doesn't fit well against a deep Northwestern defensive line that rounded into form with a shutout of Purdue last week. Then you also got Minnesota and Iowa, another team that's 5-2. Now, Iowa quarterback Mark Gronkowski has not thrown a touchdown pass since he threw a pair against UMass in week 3. It hasn't caught up with the Hawkeye yet because of his skill set as a runner. That's going to be challenging against the Golden Gophers defense, which has spent multiple times in the backfield of opponent teams. 23 sacks, that is second in the Big Ten, and 47 tackles for a loss, which is tied third in the Big Ten. Then you also got another team that's 5-10, 5-2, excuse me. Okay, there we go. Let me turn it up real quick. Then you also got, I think that's too loud. Okay. Then you also got 23rd ranked Illinois is going to at Washington. Now, Illinois has lost by a combine of 71 points to the top 2 teams in the country, which is Ohio State and Indiana. Now, Washington, they lost to Michigan 24-7 as Desmond Williams Jr. threw 3 interceptions. Yikes. So it will be on how the Huskies star running back Jonathan Coleman, he is actually the FBS leading 12 rushing touchdown fair against Illinois' defensive front that has been much better since the Indiana truncheon. Now, you want to keep an eye on those 2 of the best receivers in the Big Ten. So the Illini's Hank Beatty and the Huskies Denzel Boston, Boston, as in Boston, Massachusetts. Now let's head over to the SEC. So you got number 8, Ole Miss against 13 ranked Oklahoma. I was just checking my batteries. So Ole Miss is coming off that loss against Georgia last week. Ole Miss, for most of the game, and their offense led by Trinidad Campbell was electric in the first half. And then Oklahoma, just like Ole Miss, both of them are 6-1. Now, Oklahoma is coming off that loss against Texas. That was not good when they played against Texas. That was a pretty bad game. So the quarterback, John Mater, hasn't looked as dynamic as he did before because he had surgery on his throwing hand back in September. Also, you want to look at 15th ranked Missouri going against 10th ranked Vanderbilt, as Vanderbilt handed LSU its second loss of the season in week 8, defeated them 31-24. Vanderbilt is 6-1 and has a plus 240 odds to make the college football playoff. Now, don't sleep on Missouri as they coming into this SEC matchup with a 6-1 record. Now, they are underdogs, don't get me wrong, but the Tigers do have a leg up since both their offense and defense rank in the top 10. Now, look at third-rate Texas A&M, which I think can possibly be a upset. I think LSU could possibly put an upset against Texas A&M. Now, the Aggies are 7-0. Now, LSU can keep it close, okay? Now, LSU is 5-2, so they got to win this game because if they don't win this game, I have a great feeling that Brian Kelly may be fired after this season because his job is on the line. Then you also got the Big 12. You got the BYU Cougars coming off the win against Utah. I liked that game against the Iowa State Cyclones. Now, BYU was outgained by more than 100 yards by Utah, and they gave up 226 yards on the ground, and they won thanks to an interception plus 4th down stops. Now, Cougars this time, they're underdogs. Now, Iowa State is coming off that bye after a 1-score loss to Cincinnati and Colorado. So the former of which saw Matt Campbell's typically sting defense allowed 260 rushing yards. BYU is second in the Big 12 in rushing and 10th nationally. That should give the Cougars this matchup advances as they look to stay undefeated. So as we're looking to BYU in the Big 12, let me see. Is this the no. But I know I probably got it, but if I don't have it, so be it. Let me check. Okay, there we go. So BYU has a bye after that. So after the Iowa State, because that's a road game. So after that, there'll be a bye in week 10. Then they got to go to Texas Tech in week 11, TCU in 12, and then their last two games is at Cincinnati and then at University of Central Florida. So they got a couple of tough games. So if you're still on your college football survival pool on Splash Sports, please take this information seriously because you never know what type of upsets is going to happen in college football. But yeah, there's been a lot of ups in college football this year. That's pretty terrific. Okay, so that is it. So, like I said, I would like to thank Mr. Jason Anik for coming on to the show to preview week 8 of the NFL. As I gave you the NFL players touchdown survivor pick on Splash Sports and also gave you the update and the games you want to pay attention to week 9 in your survivor pool, college football survivor pool on Splash Sports. Like I said, use promo code UUM2IX and get $10 free when you enter a contest that is $10 or more. You will get that free $10 when the contest starts. And please make sure you check to see the game that the state you play in that you're able to play these games. And don't forget, head on to 586sports.com to sign up for our weekly newsletter and for our survival pool picks for NFL and NCAA football. Those picks are available on our website, winner or loser survival pool grids as well. So I am so very happy. And 2 more days, it will be my birthday. So that's terrific. Okay, so right now it is 7:12. So next week, I am going to have a guest. His name is Dustin Linkby, as I had him on my show earlier this year. And that is it. So take care. You guys have a nice and wonderful evening, as I will be doing editing for the short clips as well. And also, you can, so if you're not able to watch the show live or watch it on YouTube, the audio will be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. So take care. Have a wonderful evening. Safer Trap, Survival Pool Show, 586 Sports, Detroit Survival Pool Authority.